Hello and welcome to my channel. My name is Frances, and if this is your first time here, I bid thee welcome. There is a subscribe button below if you would like to help support my channel by subscribing, and also a bell to be notified as to when I upload more content. I'm coming to you from Ghana country, and as such I acknowledge the Ghana people of the Adelaide Plains as being the traditional custodians of this land. So in this video, I just want to talk somewhat about the solar eclipse that we have coming up on the 8th of April, or it actually will be Tuesday, the 9th of April here in Adelaide at 3:50 a.m., which is Australian Central Standard Time. It will be at 19 degrees 24 minutes of Aries. It'll be a new moon solar eclipse because solar eclipses happen on the new moon. It will also be a super new moon, meaning that in the moon cycle around the Earth, it's at its closest point to the Earth. And there's also a lot more to unpack because April itself is actually a really big month astrologically, despite there being few transits happening. But what is actually happening throughout this month could very well have intense and rather long-reaching effects. So it will be interesting when we reach the end of the year and start looking back to see just how far we have moved energetically, spiritually, even what's been happening in our immediate environment as well. So we are in the first eclipse season for the year. We had the lunar eclipse that was on the Libra full moon. It happened here in South Australia on the 25th of March, so 24th in other parts of the world. Libra, of course, is the sign of the scales. It's all about balance. However, as it occurred just after the full moon, we had the full moon peaking, and then we had the eclipse. There it was also an element of sort of closing out, of ending, of completion, with it being on the south node. So the south node is all about our karmic past as well. And it could have sort of highlighted things in relation to relationships as well. All of these things are governed by Libra. So as eclipses come in pairs, the solar eclipses I've mentioned will be happening here in Adelaide on Tuesday, the 9th of April. However, this will equate to Monday, the 8th, depending on where you are in the world. I personally use a site called timeanddate.com where you can put in your location or the location of your largest city or town, and it will come up with a whole lot of information depending on what you're looking for, including timings of the moon, of the sun rising and setting, of eclipses, even of seasonal midpoints like the equinoxes and the solstices as well. Or if you have your own site, you could have a look there. So I said, April is going to be a big month. It starts off with Mercury going retrograde right at the beginning of the month on the 1st of April. And that will also be in the astrological sign of Aries. And then about a week or so later, we have the solar eclipse, which will be at a direct conjunction with Chiron. And then we also have a conjunction between Jupiter and Uranus taking place. And it's this last transit that is getting a lot of astrologers, especially those that I follow, because as you know, if you've been watching this channel, I'm not an astrologer. I just have an interest in astrology. But this conjunction between Jupiter and Uranus is getting a lot of astrologers rather excited. And then we also said we've got Chiron, we've also got Venus also in Aries. So we've got a lot of sort of interweaving layers that I guess is probably a good idea to start to break down things, probably the best that I can with my limited experience. However, I would encourage you to check out the astrologers that I list below, because these are the ones that have inspired this video, and also look at any others that you have as a personal favorite. So I will start by maybe getting a little bit of a backtrack, because I said we are in eclipse season, and as such, the energetics of eclipses, not to mention this huge Jupiter-Uranus conjunction, which could actually be likened to an eclipse, are actually already blending and could in fact continue to be felt, especially on an energetic level, or even the effects of these planetary transits right through until the end of the year. In fact, a lot of astrologers, in particular Pam Gregory, mentions regularly that eclipses can be found for at least 6 months afterwards. So this means that we may not actually notice these changes that we are going through on a very subtle inner level until we undertake reflection or coming out of the end of the year. So on the 1st of April, April Fool's Day, Mercury goes retrograde. It won't be a full then. It'll go retrograde at 27 degrees of Aries, and it'll be retrograde until the 25th of Aries, where it will then station direct at 15 degrees 59 minutes, if you're interested. Now, Mercury is the planet of communication, and this is communication of all kinds, from print media and journalism to emails and text messages, also how we gather our information these days, because all of that is changing. It also governs travel, in particular short distance travel, our immediate environment, like our neighbors or our siblings, and those sorts of things. And of course, when planets go retrograde, which is, they look like they're going backwards from our place on the earth, what they're doing, they're giving us an opportunity to reflect, to revisit, recharge, even review, reconsider things. Mercury going retrograde in Aries, which is the first sign of the zodiac, it's a fiery sign, could actually be asking us to sort of like slow down a bit, put on the brakes, and check in with our own self. So this is an Aries trait. It's all about the self, our self-identification, which is going to be highlighted this month with so many planets in Aries. It's asking probably for a little bit more detail, a little bit more of the specifics before we actually commit ourselves to something. So having a little bit more time to think things through, as opposed to this impulsive Aries nature of doing everything yesterday. And it's sort of reminding us that we really need to ensure that all the I's are dotted, all the T's are crossed, as well as possibly having backup plans, because things may not go according to plan A. The desired outcome will be reached. However, it might be via plan B, plan C, even D. There may be also a degree of flexibility being needed as new plans, new possibilities open up, especially after what may feel like a number of false starts. Now, what's really interesting is Mercury in retrograde will be working with Chiron. Chiron, of course, is the wounded healer, which is also in retrograde at 19 degrees 24 minutes of Aries, which is the actual degree point, the exact degree point of the eclipse, and I'll get to that in a moment. And Chiron has been retrograde since July last year, 2023, and won't be moving direct until the end of the year. Also added into the mix is Venus, the planet that rules love, relationships, also our values. She is now entered Aries at 4 degrees 26 minutes. And the other point, shall we say, that's in Aries is, of course, the North Node. So this is our future direction. And that is at 15 degrees 37 minutes. All of these planets and points will be having some kind of influence in relation to this new moon solar eclipse. So let's have an actual look and breakdown at this eclipse. As I mentioned, it'll be occurring on Tuesday the 9th here in Australia, or Monday the 8th, depending on where you are. And the new moon is when the sun and the moon are conjunct or right next to each other. And as I did mention also, as the moon is at its closest point in its orbit around the Earth, it will be a super new moon. So there'll be an enhancement of these lunar energies. Of course, the solar eclipse occurs when the moon moves between the Earth and the sun, blocking out the sun. And as such, a total solar eclipse will be seen in Canada, the United States of America, and Mexico, starting at around about 3:40 to, now that's what they call Coordinated Universal Time, and that's PM, and ending around about 8:52 PM. Here in Adelaide, however, this equates to 12 minutes past 1 in the morning to about 6:22 AM on the 9th, the next day. And as I said, we won't see the eclipse at all because of the night and also where its fall is across the Earth. Other parts in the world, however, may see a partial eclipse. But just because we don't see the eclipse doesn't mean that we won't feel the effect of the energetics. Now, new moons, because this eclipse takes place on a new moon, is often considered to be the time of new beginnings, of time to set new intentions and plans of what you would like to manifest during the upcoming lunar cycle. With it being a new moon in Aries, this is the first sign, as I said, of the zodiac. So there's a lot of energies, a lot of determination. And there's also the North Node thrown into the mix, which again is all about new and future directions in order to be heading into. So there's all of this energy about focusing on the new. However, eclipses are like wild cards. They tend to stir things up in our lives, especially feelings, our emotions, that we have actually been suppressing under the surface. So they bring these up to the surface for us to deal with in order to move forward and embrace the new. And as such, these changes could actually be achieved through the eclipse instigating rather cataclysmic, shall we say, changes. They will be deep soul shifts, and really we can't go back. So it's almost like we have reached a tipping point and they push us over the edge in order for us to achieve something or release something in order to move forward. So, and I know I keep repeating myself, on the 8th or the 9th of April, we will be experiencing a new moon total, if you're in America, solar eclipse in Aries. That will be an exact conjunction with Chiron. So I said Chiron's also at 19 degrees 24 minutes. The North Node is at 15 degrees 37 minutes. And there is probably a more loose conjunction with Mercury in retrograde being at 24 degrees 47 minutes, all of Aries. So there is a feeling, a sensation that all this points towards something rather powerful, of a powerful energy coming up, being presented to us, but getting an opportunity to cleanse, to renovate, to bring in, be initiated into something new, and also to deal with healing. So a lot of these sort of themes overlaps. with it being very close to the North Node, this is encouraging us to move forward into the unknown, to embrace the unfamiliar. However, before we can do that, we need to find what we have been sort of ignoring, especially in relation to deep emotional wounds, because Chiron's going to be bringing these up to the surface in order for us to deal with them. And as such, this is enabling us to access this deep inner wisdom that we have on us. I call it a cellular level, a really deep level. It's giving us an opportunity to tap into a deeper level of spiritual awareness that is actually been waiting to be unlocked, and Chiron is giving us this opportunity. So instead of putting on a brave face and soldiering through life, maybe it's time to sort of lean into and feel the pain that we've been trying to avoid, that deep grief, that sense of loss, separation, disappointment, or even loneliness. But Chiron reminds us that there is the medicine we are seeking within the pain, and the healing, the true healing that we are seeking, that we're trying to undertake, only takes place at a deeper soul level when we dare to honestly allow ourselves to feel into this pain. And as I said, Chiron is in Aries, so it's all about the self, our self-identity, who we are, who we really are. And maybe you're watching this and you're thinking that you don't have, or you never have experienced such deep cellular pain, or you've dealt with it, and maybe you have. However, there's a couple of other ways that you might like to utilize this time and these energetics, especially when you consider that at a new moon, especially when the sky is at its darkest, not everything has been brought into the light of our conscious mind. There could very well be hidden in the depths of our subconscious something that our ego self is continuously ignoring. So get out your natal chart, your birth chart, or go onto sites that will give you a free birth chart and see what house 19 degrees 24 minutes of Aries falls into. Also see what planets or points are there. Maybe you'd like to just check back into whether there are any areas of vulnerability or where you feel insecure in your life that are not all that clear to you at this very point in time, and as to why they're not clear. Maybe think back to the last Aries solar eclipse, which we had on the 8th of April 2005. What was happening in your life then? What has happened in your life since then? Or more recently, did something start to emerge, especially at an emotional level, in July last year when Chiron went into retrograde at this very point of 19 degrees 24 minutes of Aries? And Chiron seems to be coming back to this point, and we'll come back to this point again, and I'll mention that in a moment. And the final suggestion that to sort of start unpacking these energies is maybe over the last 4 years, we as a collective have gone through so much, and today there's still so much chaos and pain happening around us that we are all intimately connected into being part of this energetic cosmic web. So this means that regardless of what's happening on the world or in the global events, we are affected. It is affecting us on some level. We might just not be consciously aware of it. So again, have another check back in. So let's look at Aries. Aries is all about new beginnings, new energy, especially, as I said, on a deeper cellular level. It's or there is something coming through to revive you, to refresh, to renew you, especially in relation to your own inner healing, to assist you on your own healing journey. And as energetic beings, there's just so many layers to us. And as such, these many layers mean that it needs deeper healing, different levels of healing. Especially when we're looking at healing ourselves as a whole being, the mind, the spirit, the body. And for this reason, healing, or the healing that we've undertaken, could actually have only been taken so far. And we need to do now a next stage of healing to get to those deeper cellular levels. So as I said, Chiron stationed retrograde in July last year, 2023, at this direct degree point of 90 degrees, 24 minutes of Aries, which means we have been already working through this energy. Chiron won't station direct until the end of the year because its cycle lasts about 18 months. And what's really interesting is that when it does station direct, it will be exactly at this degree point, 19 degrees, 24 minutes of Aries. So when you think about it, effectively, we are at this halfway point of this healing journey connected with this degree point that started in July last year. And as I mentioned, this degree point is an exact conjunction of Chiron and the solar eclipse. So it can be seen as a birth, something opening up, that if we've been doing some deep healing work with Chiron, maybe our healing awakening, as Molly McCord describes it, will be brought into our conscious awareness. There could be new potentials being revealed or coming into our conscious awareness from this point onwards, and which will continue until the end of the year. So as I said, when there is an eclipse, especially around the new moon is the darkest part of the sky. And as such, this sort of relates back to something being hidden from our conscious awareness. It's not something that has not been come into light. And when we're bringing into the nodes into questions, could actually relate to something that's been locked away. Molly McCord, I think, it also mentions being frozen away, especially from our past. And now with this fiery Aries energy, it could be starting to emerge, starting to thaw out, starting to present itself. And Chiron is actually holding the key to not only what this new stage in our healing journey needs to be, was emerging to manifest, but how our own soul evolution will take off from this point, especially when we add the North Node into the equation. So all of this sort of has an emphasis on working through this Chiron energy of not letting the ego get in the way, especially if we are being encouraged to lean into the tough, the painful, because Chiron's the wounded healer after all. And as he emerges and engages us, he encourages us to step into and embrace, even befriend this deep-rooted pain, which could be emerging from either our childhood, or it may actually be past life that we've carried over, or it may actually be part of our DNA. It could be a intergenerational trauma that we have not actually experienced, that maybe someone back in our line has gone through, but we have taken on that energetic implant of that. And because we've got Chiron and Aries, all of this could actually relate to our own self-identity of who we really are. Do we even know who we are, especially after all the changes that we, and I'm talking about the collective we as well, have gone through over the last few years, had all these layers stripped away from us. And some of us too have been encouraged to step into, or feeling that our most vulnerable parts of ourselves have been put on display. And so there's another side to this Chiron energy, and that's to remind us of our strengths, especially when we look back and see how far we've come. To look at the lessons that we've learned as we emerge from what may seem to be a dark tunnel, a spiritual dark night of the soul. It also reminds us of our choices, sort of encouraging us not to fall into that victim consciousness, to realign our self-identity, which is Aries, in order to give or to live our life more on our terms and not on those imposed by others, society, or even what we may assume society expects of us. So when Chiron is in Aries, it also reminds us of a bigger picture, especially when we're looking at the soul being involved. And then when we throw Mercury in retrograde into the mix, Mercury can actually be a little bit more vocal during eclipses, not to mention rather blunt if it's in retrograde. So this is sort of a reminder to check into your own belief systems, as that also creates our personal realities, especially, as I said, with Mercury working with Chiron. We have Venus at 4 degrees of Aries thrown into the mix, and also the North Node that I keep talking about. So there is a lot that seems to be starting to manifest that maybe is not fully in your conscious awareness at this point in time, but will merge into awareness, will start to physically manifest around the end of April. However, as such, you may be sort of feeling this pull into new understandings and new directions, maybe opening up. Don't know quite why, but you feel drawn to take those steps. And Pam Gregory mentions that while you might feel drawn to take these steps, it's probably best to sort of not take any action as yet. Wait until after the 25th when the planets all are direct again. However, there is no reason why you can't utilize the sort of holding pattern until the energies all move direct, to start clearing out the new goals that you want to achieve. Now, as I did mention, in March, we had a lunar eclipse before the solar eclipse. So this could also indicate that something may have opened up, something may be a little bit more personal, a little bit more emotional. The eclipse may have even illuminated something in our subconscious again that we were meant to see. And because it was in the lunar eclipse, was in the astrological sign of Libra, the scales, balance. Maybe it's something we need to see with a degree of emotional objectivity, especially when it comes to looking at what choices we have. And remember that the last eclipse was on the South Node, so that's our karmic past. It's all about letting go. And with Mercury in retrograde pulling us back to relook at something, to revisit something, maybe it is what we call the root cause, the seed of issues, of problems that are coming to light in our everyday existence, difficulties that we are experiencing. There is always a cause somewhere along the line to them. And as I said, we're now giving the opportunity to sort of ascertain where these originated from once and for all. It could be our childhood, it could be a past life. It could be ascertaining whether these are actually ours to begin with. And just an aside, if you're watching this on Saturday the 20th of April, Friday the 19th, depending on where you live, I'm actually offering an online soul regression session that we take in sort of in a group format. And this session could actually assist you in ascertaining where these root causes are, as well as providing you with an opportunity to release yourself from them, from that energetic pull. And I'll put the link below if you're interested in learning more and if you're wanting to join in. So to wrap all of this up, we've got a lot happening in Aries, which is the first sign of the zodiac. And at this point, I haven't even mentioned the Jupiter-Uranus conjunction yet, which, to be perfectly honest, I think in order to do that transition justice, I might have to do a little bit more research and do a complete separate video just on that. But I do want to mention the fact that we have all these planets in Aries. We have the Sun, the Moon, Chiron, North Node, Venus and Mercury, all in Aries. Mars is the planetary ruler of Aries. And Mars, named after the Roman god of war, is actually in Pisces. So that's something. So Pisces is a watery planet. It can relate to illusions, disillusions, addictions. And we're just going back to Mars for a moment. The shadowy aspects of Mars, the negative aspects of Mars, of course, are war, aggression, anger. And we are seeing a lot of this happening around us in the world these days. And I just want to bring to light something that Pam Gregory reminds us, and that is we do not need to feed into this energy. In fact, with all the chaos happening around us, this sort of emphasizes the need to return to a place of peace, inner stillness and balance, the breath, the scales, within our own selves. So undertaking meditation practices, even being or bring yourself back into the here and now, being present. That's something that Aries is all about. It's all about the here and now. So maybe start undertaking a little bit more mindfulness without worrying too much about the past that we can't change or the future that we can't feel control. And again, this is all head stuff, which is the part of the body that Aries governs. So balancing, grounding, getting out into nature, just allowing us to be in the present, especially with all these energetics firing up, could also help us move through these periods of challenge and change with a little bit more, I wouldn't say ease, but I suppose it is ease, more can assist us a little bit more. So there is, as I said, a lot happening this month. There's actually a lot of energetics tied into this solar eclipse. And just because it's a new moon as well, it might be wise or recommended to sort of look at these other aspects which are pinging off it, these other energetics that are interwoven into it. So I'm going to wrap it up there. I do hope you find or have found this video of interest. I would recommend that you check out the links of the astrologers that I have used in preparing this video, because after all, they are the experts. And I put their links below, or their video links, because I have referred to 2 Molly McCord videos. I would actually be very interested in learning how you resonate with this information, what's been coming up for you since the lunar eclipse in March. Has anything come into your awareness? How you feel about the transitioning into the new? Is anything that you are aware of opening up to you already? So put your comments below. I do read them all. And if you haven't done so already, it would be wonderful if you would help support this channel by subscribing. I do this without any financial gain. I just do it because I am interested in these topics, and I just would like to get the information out there. So take care and blessings.